Welcome to That One Show with Brian Combs. And I have a guest today, Mr. Mike Shouse, guitarist extraordinaire. He's got a new album that's coming out very, very soon. We're going to be talking about it a lot today. Mike, how are you? And why don't you introduce yourself to our audience in case they are not familiar with you and your work?
Hey Brian, I'm good, man. My name is Mike Shouse, and I've got a new CD coming out September the 5th. Well, that's tentative right now, but that's when the label said they were going to release it. It's through Decca Entertainment, which is they have worldwide distribution, which is why I went with them. They're with Warner Group, and it's my third album, first in 15 years. So it's been like 2010 since I've done anything with the music.
Yeah, I remember that album that you put out in 2010. I was telling you before we got on here, I've played some songs off of it on my old radio show on our local WJSN radio station, and it's in our shared hometown of Jackson, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Uh, for those that don't know, so you are primarily a guitarist, correct?
Yes, that's my main instrument. Yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you when you first started playing guitar?
Man, believe it or not, I was 17. I was a senior in high school. I started out playing saxophone all through school, and then came the 80s with that Van Halen, and I remember his video. I think it was Hot for the Teacher, and
Mm.
man, I want to do that. And you probably know the guy, O.H. Napier, legendary
Yes.
Napier. He was a good friend of my mother, who was the librarian at the time, and I guess she had told him I wanted to start playing. He gave me a Strat or a Squire, whatever it was, and an amp, and I bought some videos on how to play, and within 6 months. I was already blowed through everything I would learn that I was ready to. I mean, I was just a natural. I took it off. I mean, it was my thing. I
So
found
you,
my thing. That was it. And
so you really didn't take lessons. You were self-taught.
yes, I'm completely self-taught. The only time I took lessons was when I went to Moorhead for my art education, because I was an art teacher. I took some classical and got to where I could sight read classical pretty good. And my whole thing was, I remember Beethoven, I think, once said, learn everything and then forget it, and whatever comes out is you. So I learned jazz, classical, blues, slide guitar, everything I could learn in the last, since, 1987. That was my goal, was to learn as much as I could. And, and then, now I'm spitting out, instrumentals where every song is I think in one song I have 71 key changes, and
Ooh.
all of them have at least 15. So, that comes from all my quest for knowledge over the years on understanding of music and guitar and everything. So,
So you mentioned Van Halen and O.H. Napier. O.H.
yeah.
Uh, uh, so what are some of your influences slash inspirations as far as coming into your own, learning to play, continuing to evolve your sound as far as other guitar players go?
Well, early on, I was born, raised in the 80s. So, of course, you had all that great music. As far as bands, I liked all the greats, the Van Halens, the Zach Wilds, but I liked a lot of obscure bands like Sabotage and Dangerous Toys and Killer Dwarfs and Leather Wolf, that had a lot of great guitar players in it also. That pretty much anything that had great guitar playing, that's what I liked. Whether anybody else liked the music or the vocals were any good or not, if it had good guitar players in it,
The,
that's what drove me.
it's due to my, I guess, lack of hardcore 80s metal that
Yeah,
the only one of those artists I've heard of is the Killer Dwarfs.
yeah, yeah.
And the best I remember, they had some out there album covers, man.
Yeah, that's fine. And that was the thing in the '80s too. I like Striper. I was a big Striper fan,
Yeah, yeah.
and their album covers. What I saw their album in a mall at a band trip one time in high school, and it had the angels casting Satan into hell. And you bought it just for that, just for the
Right,
album.
right, right.
Man of War, all bands like that had that great covers, and but yeah, anything with great guitar playing drew me. And of course, back then you didn't have YouTubes and internet, so he had to buy guitar magazines and get lessons from Satriani and Steve Vai and all these guys. And I had a whole folder stacked high of all. I cut all those lessons out and put them in folders, and so anything I liked, I would learn it, and that's where I got. I wouldn't try to play with like one player. I never learned anybody. I haven't played anybody else's music since '87 when we had a high school band. That senior year, we played some cover tunes, and after that, it was I heard Surfing with an Alien from Joe Satriani,
Mm.
and and I was like, dude, that's what I want to do. I didn't want to know how to play it. I just want to know how to do that. How to make an instrumental album where every song was totally different than any other song he'd ever done. Multiple key changes, multiple techniques and licks and things, and every song was unique. And I was like, how does he know how to do that? And that was my goal, was to learn that. How do you create an instrumental album, and how do you create multiple songs that don't sound anything alike? Because most bands, you listen to AC/DC album, every song they've ever written, kind of the same thing, kind of the same key, kind of the same licks. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of a like Metallica. Even they're all, you can hear it and you know it. All, you're not going to get surprised by any one song. But my thing is to make every song sound totally different, and you do that by keys, different modes, changing constantly. Things like that. Just how to, and with instrumentals, you kind of have to, because if you
Right.
if you just do the same chord progression and same key, it sounds like some guy's practicing in his garage. It don't go anywhere, and you don't have lyrics to take you places, so you have to change keys a lot.
So let's start talking about the new album. How many tracks have you got on there?
I've got 9 on this one. I originally had 14 allotted for this first album, and I had 3 vocal tracks. And
Mm.
when I went to, and one of them was an Americana folk song featuring a guy out of Portland, Oregon, Ryan Jacobs. He's great, by the way. He sounds like Tyler Childers. And then I had a female singer from Spain, Lilu, who sang on a couple. One was a middle, like a rock track, and the other one was kind of almost like a jazz track. But anyway, they wanted me to go with all instrumental on this first album, uh, just because I guess ties back to the 2010 stuff,
Mm.
and reintroduce myself because it's been a while. So we decided to just do 9 instrumentals on this one, and then I've got 5 ready for a new one, and I'm gonna start recording the rest of that album here soon. Have that out next year. So.
So do you have your own recording studio?
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got Pro Tools here in the in
yeah.
the uh, in the house. So I do all my stuff here to a click track, guitar, MIDI, sound effects, do all that. Then I send it to a drummer, Charlie Zellini. He's in New York, and he's awesome. He's one of the best drummers on the East Coast in the world, actually. And then when he's done, I'll take it and send it to Los Angeles to James Pulley, who plays bass on this album, and he plays for Chris and Pelletari's band in Pelletary,
Hmm.
and he's a Metal Hall of Famer bass player. And he also plays in a band called Bonfire, and they're a AC/DC cover band, and they're going to open for Zach Wild's band, Zach Sabbath. And they're going to be touring they're going to be coming through Lexington, I think, in October, November. And
Right.
I'm going to finally get a meeting, because I never get to meet
Cool.
these guys, because he lives in L.A. and one lives in New York, and I met the drummer a few months ago. He came to Louisville and played, and so I got to go out and meet him and talk to him finally and meet him face to face. Uh, but yeah, it's so I've got some 2 great players on it. They play on all the songs. Then my last album, I had like 8 bass players and 3 drummers from around the world. So this one, I wanted to kind of stick with the same rhythm section. Same bass player, same drummer, and have that consistency in it. And then I've got Michelangelo Badio on a guest solo. He plays for a little band called Man of War right now, which is like the loudest band in the world. I don't know if you remember them. They're still
Hmm.
around, big in Europe. He also was big in the '80s with Nitro, and he does a lot of. If you're a guitar player, you know who Michelangelo is. He does the speed. He's like the king of speed. He has the 2-neck guitar,
Hmm.
4-neck guitar thing that was copied by Steve Vai and others. And then I've also got Ron Thile, which is Bumblefoot.
Yeah.
He played for Guns N' Roses for like
Yes.
9 years. He's on their Chinese Democracy or whatever album. He played on it. And then I've got Tony McAlpine, which is also a Metal Hall of Famer, shrapnel guy like Bumblefoot. One of the great legends of guitar. Tony, he's still out there playing. He played with Steve Vai on the last couple G3 tours, I think. And then what's funny, I asked Greg how to play on it, and I never heard back. And then he replied back after the album's coming out, and he's going to play on the next album. Greg,
Cool.
he's a legendary instrumental guitar player too.
Well, I think it says a lot about you and your work that the people of this stature would agree, to be featured or guest on a album that you are creating. So you should be very proud of that fact, Mike.
Well, thanks, man. I always tell people I think I have imposter syndrome. Because you think I'm from Jackson, so I'm like a Jackson guy playing instrumental just doesn't think. But I asked them, they agreed, and they played on it, and then I've got a good record label to pick me up. So and I've got great players, and so I guess I must be doing something right. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just create work, and you don't know if anybody's going to like it or not, and you don't really care actually. As long as you like it, it's kind of like art or anything else or a movie. You just have to create, and then you hope people like it.
You've been part of a few movies too, with your
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, done some acting, and I've been really busy in the last few years doing behind the scenes. I did all the soundtracks and music for our productions, some documentaries, and Forever in Black Hills, that movie we did in 2004. So you see that ties into the music too. If you listen to it, all the orchestrated stuff that comes from doing all the compositions and sound, the original scores for these movies and documentaries I do. So and if you remember the song "Bucket of Bolts," it has the sound effects where it's in the space kind of thing.
Hmm.
So that comes also in handy because I do all the special effects sounds and all the soundtrack stuff. So it kind of all ties into my music too. It comes pouring into it.
Uh, so what's the longest song on this upcoming album?
Oh man, I'm thinking "Jaded" might be the title track. It might be 5 minutes or so. Now I've got a song that's 6.5 minutes that I was going to have on this album. That's an instrumental. It's on the next. It's going to be on the next album, and it's like it sounds like a Viking. It's almost like a Viking
Mm.
song. Uh, but yeah, they range. I've got I think the least on this album was like 2 minutes. I have like the prelude tracks that lead to the next track. So it just varies. I just record and whatever. I don't sit and plan 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. It just whatever happens happens.
Do you have a particular favorite guitar, or are you partial to several?
Yeah, I play Carvin and Kiesel is it's the same company. Carvin used to be a big thing back in the day, and then they Carvin went to I think started making all the amps for Carvin because they did amps and everything, guitars and bass, and then Carvin went to mostly the electronic, and then Kiesel took over, and they're called Kiesel guitars now. Same company, just different name. So that's the only guitars I play because they're special made. Usually you have to order them. You call in, you get on their website and you pick the frets and the inlay and the wood, the paint color, everything, and it takes them like 6 months to make it. So they're very expensive guitars, but you didn't get them off a rack anywhere. They made it to your
Uh,
specifications.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you dabble in acoustic guitars very often, or I know you mentioned that you had an Americana song in the bag that's probably going to be on the next record.
Yeah, yeah. I play a Carvin acoustic. It's Cobalt. It's a acoustic electric, and I've had Carvin. I've had classicals from them, classical thin body classicals. I've had and sold 7 string electric guitars, and over the year I've had multiple guitars. But you'll get to where you don't use them much, and then you think, well, I need the money, and you'll sell them, and then you'll buy a new one. I bought I bought one on like online last year that I saw somebody selling a Carve and an older model like I have, and I bought it, and then I changed the pickups and put a kill switch, kind of doctored it up the way I want it, and I got some different sounds that I couldn't get before. With this, I put a Sustainiac a pickup. Sustainiac is a thing that lets you get all that feedback and holds the note real long.
Hmm.
So you see a lot of guys using that, now today with Satriani, and I mean everybody uses them now. But yeah, I didn't have that technology, so now I have it. So it's pretty cool to be able to add it on this.
So we mentioned earlier there's been a several year gap between albums.
Yeah.
When did you first start the process of not necessarily recording this album, but thinking about making a new album, just playing around with different melodies and whatnot?
Well, since 2010's release, I was actually going to get out and I had a three-piece band when I moved to Lexington from Breathitt in 2001. Had a three-piece band. And I had another album then, Alone on Enter the Soul, and I was playing out 3 or 4 places in Lexington with a band. I had a 3-piece band, and it's a lot of work. You got band members you don't get along with, or they have girlfriends you don't get along with, or they're using drugs or drinking. I don't do any of that stuff, so I didn't like it. Plus, I was teaching at the time, so then I did the 2010 album. I was getting ready to go out and play with like a backing track where I had all the music would play through a PA system, and I would play the lead, and I burned my apartment down. So
Mm.
that ended that. I mean, I lost everything, and it took me a long time to get back, and then had a breakup, and so with all the chaos and everything, and then I bought a house at Lake Harrington, and I spent the last 7 years in a row fixing that place up, and I've really devoted all my time to flipping that house and making it worth a lot more. But while I was doing that, and during COVID, this was during the COVID time. Uh, I don't play much. I don't practice. I don't play for hours, but I will pick it up every now and then, and I will bang out a rhythm or a melody, or I'll even have a dream sometime, and I'll wake up and I've did something in my dream that I remember, and so I'll get up and play these little ditties, or come up with a chord progression or key changes that I like, and I'll record them with my phone. Just set it up. Nope, not even plugging the guitar in, and I'll record it, forget about it. And then a couple weeks later, I'll do something else, record it, forget about it. So I had all these stockpiles of these little ideas, and so when I moved back here to Jackson to take care of my parents, I was going crazy. If you live in the city for long and you move back to Jackson, I love Jackson, but it's a place. If you want a peace and quiet and calm and not a lot going on, Jackson's your place. But so being here and taking care of the parents every day, I thought I need to do something. I'm going crazy. So I got all those little ditties out one at a time, and I would listen to them, and I would say, "Okay, I'll start that one." So I would come in the studio, and I would, relearn it, and I would. I'll show you on a board here. I don't know if you can see that. So I have a board, and I would map out. I'd map out the song, the progression, the chord progressions, and I would record the whole song, the rhythm section, all the key changes and everything on the first day. And then the second day, I would come in and do all the lead, all improv the second day. So I never spent more than 2 days on any song on this album. And that was, like I said, the first day was usually just composition, coming up with the melody, the chorus, the repeated part, and then the solo, the key changes. I do all that the first day, and like I said, the second day it was all just improv. I would sit and play, and my improv is usually 8 beats, like two measures, 8 to 16 beats phrasing in each lick or idea. And and then I would lay in whatever else harmonies, sound effects, things like that. And then I would send it off to the drummer. But yeah, most of it came from just little things I did during the COVID and living at the lake and working on my house period. Like I said, when I really didn't play at all at that time, I would just pick it up and bang on it and come up with something, and then I would just forget it, and something else would come to me later. And so that's where it came from.
Have you got a particular song on the album that you're most excited for the public to hear, or is it you're just excited about the entire album?
Yeah, they're all
Uh,
my babies. I said it's like children. You create them
right,
all.
right.
You like them all. They all have their spot. But uh, it's with instrumental. I'm not writing them for guitar players. At a certain point when you can play anything you want to play, and you've played every lick out there, and you can play anything you want, I could nonstop shred for the whole album. I never play a whole note or a half note or just constantly show off. But I don't write music for guitar players, and I don't write it for people that aren't guitar players. I just do what I do and hope people like it. I mean, it has a lot of guitar, you know, tricks and licks and fancy stuff in it, but it also I'd like to put a lot of good melody in there, like Satriani would do. It's melody first. You got a good melody line, and uh, so there's parts when it's real simple, and you're thinking guitar players are going to hate this, but I'm like, I don't care what it fits the song. So uh, yeah, I don't know. I think Jaded, the title track, I like it because it was a challenge because it has 71 key changes in it.
Ooh.
And it is literally because most popular music, if people don't know theory and key change, most popular music has one key, like E
Hmm.
minor, and it maybe go to a vamp in the solo, or even go up a whole step at the end. But so that track changes every measure, every 4 beats, it changes to a different key and then back. It rotates. It goes major key to a minor key, which I've never heard of. I started experimenting on that with the last album. So that's something totally new. I've never seen it done.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, so and it's one of those things too. You don't. I want you. Here's the thing. I want to make it where it's constantly changing, but if you're listening to it, you can't tell that. It sounds, it just sounds like a song. It doesn't sound like a key. You're changing from one key to another. And the way that I do that is I look at two keys, which is major and harmonic minor. There's 5 common notes in those keys. So then I focus on my melody and a lot of the licks on those 5 common notes, and that ties those two keys together. And then you have to just the other notes you put in when you are in that different key. So it's tricky too. Like there are a lot of thought goes into these instrumentals with the theory stuff. And the other one I like on there is a bucket of bolts. I don't know if you saw the video I sent you though. We're gonna have that.
Yeah.
That one's coming out. That's my space theme. The other one is a smiley faced emoji, and we got a video. We've shot half of it already. The other half will come out soon. But that one, I challenge myself. I don't play a lot of things in pentatonic, which pentatonic is a 5 note key, and it's major sound, so it's real happy. And in that one, I challenged myself to play the whole thing in major pentatonic. Now it's got like 30 key changes in it, but they all changed to major pentatonic keys. So it was different to do something I've never done before with that one. Those are my two.
So I think it's obvious in our conversation so far that you enjoy challenging yourself, uh, and to broaden, the style of guitar that you play. You're always looking to evolve, right?
Yes, and well, a lot of guitar players today, especially ones I've taught over the years, and even me probably growing up, you've got your favorites and you learn their music. And I remember I had a student and he could play every Van Halen song note for note, and he would play a chord, and I said, "What is that? A minor? I don't know." He could learn tab, and he could watch videos and YouTube, and he could play everything these guys could play, but he had no clue what he was doing. He didn't know what the note was called. And I thought, why don't you want to learn that? So that was my thing, is the knowledge. And when I teach guitar, I teach the full understanding of the guitar, not all the theory and the chords and the arpeggios and how it all works together. And it took me years to learn all that, by the way. And I went to GIT in 1992. That's Musicians Institute in Hollywood, before I started teaching at Breathitt. And they taught me some stuff that I didn't know when I went out there. Uh, but they taught it to me. They taught it wrong. So I've kind of found a way to teach it over the years that's pretty simple. People hear theory, music theory, they think it'll take you a lifetime to learn it. It takes me about 8 lessons, a half an hour lesson, to teach you everything you need to know
How long were you in Hollywood?
for a year. From I think it was spring or summer of '92 or maybe it was fall of '92 to fall of '93, because it was right before my birthday in September. That's when I went.
So that you mentioned coming back to Jackson after being,
Yeah.
it was kind of a culture shock. I imagine going from Jackson to Hollywood. How old were you at the time? Like mid-20s?
Dude, I was 21. I
Uh,
went to Moorhead. I graduated at 17 and went to Moorhead and got my art education degree to teach art. And then, of course, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That was my fallback plan. I wanted to go to GIT right out of high school, but my family talked me into getting my education. So I did that, and I went out there, and I was 21. And yeah, it was culture shock because, back then, '92. You hear about transvestites and stuff now. Oh, they were out there then. I mean, I knew transvestites and murderers and gang members and prostitutes. It was a trip to go from Jackson to. I mean, it was like a Hollywood movie out there. Gunfire every day. Automatic weapons. Hey, I saw a guy get shot right in front of me. I mean, there were murders every day. We found people. I found a guy dead in his bed myself. Went in there and pulled the covers off and found him laying there dead. I mean, it was a trip. Everybody was on. A lot of people were on crack cocaine at the time. That was the drug of choice back then. And
did you go to any of the famous music venues like the Whiskey Go Go or anything while you were out there at all?
I didn't go to the whiskey. I think it was closed then. I went to the Troubadour lot and
Okay.
the FM station that was out in the valley. and saw a lot of acts. Met Paul Gilbert and who was with Mr. Big. He was actually went out there for him because he was a teacher at GIT, and that's why I wanted to go. And then he quit teaching to be in Mr. Big, which stank because he was the shredder that I wanted to learn from. But I met a lot of people out there. I had some friends at the school that were in bands that played out, and they would let me roadie for them. So I got to
Cool.
see like the singer for Rainbow, what's his name, Bennett, uh, Paul Gilbert, Satchel from Steel Panther, which his real name was not Satchel, it's Russ Parrish. He also taught at the school, so I knew him. So you'd meet all kinds of Tracy Guns of LA Guns,
Hmm.
met him, and you'd just run into people, and they would talk to you. You're like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And you're like, "I listen to music," and you're like just standing there talking to. So you were, the thing about being out there, you were there. They were there. Being in Jackson and hearing about somebody in LA was a big deal, but when you're out there, they were just like, you're just some guy standing next to you.
So you mentioned briefly that you were an art teacher. I actually had you for art way back in the day at
Yeah,
Breathitt
that's
High.
yeah,
Uh, you there?
yeah. I'm here. I think you
Okay.
lagged or something.
Sorry. And I want to run something by you and see if you remember this. So, not to age you and I, but uh, in the 90s, there was just a very foundation and like beginnings of the internet. And our the high school that you taught and the one I attended, I think was the first maybe building in all the county or definitely the city to get internet. And they announced that they were going to drop the first ever online trailer, and it was for Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace. Do you remember downloading that? And it took like 3 hours, and we kept checking on it.
Yes, yes. That you mentioned that. I forgot about that, but yeah, I do remember the Phantom Menace downloading. I
Yeah,
mean that's how old we are. I remember that whole them coming down from like the school, the district, and teaching all the teachers how to log on to an internet, and what it
yeah,
was, and how to not go to porn sites, and it was yeah, it was funny, and I'll tell you one story about the internet at Bread that I had an uncle, and that was like back in the day when you send like birthday cards, and I don't even know if they still do this, like pop ups. You had pop up ads when you'd open something, stuff would pop up, and these birthday cards were on a site, and it would when you get in there, it start being porn pop ups.
God,
And so, everything you do on the school internet goes to the server at the district. So I'll never forget. Here comes the principal and superintendent or whoever it was that worked at the district that was over computers and internet. They came down to my room to yell at me. I said, as soon as they walked down, I said, I already know what you're coming for. I said I was trying to send this e-file, and these porn pop-ups were popping up, and so they flagged. It was different back then, man. I was at early late '90s, I guess, wasn't it?
yeah,
Mid
yeah.
late '90s.
98, 98.
Yeah, I left in
Uh,
2001.
so we got a couple minutes left. You mentioned the guests that you have on this album, and a couple that's on the one after this album. Like if the record company came and said, Mike, this album was a hit, you can collaborate with any one musician for a track on your next album. Who would you pick?
Man, good question. Like I said, I've got Greg Howe coming up. I've asked Paul Gilbert to be on this album. He said he was very busy. He was playing with Mr. Big in Europe, so I'd like to see if he would maybe, if he's got time and would play on this next one. Of course, Joe Satriani would be a dream, but I wouldn't even, if you could even contact Joe Satriani. Now Ron Thal, he's got an instrumental album that just came out, Return of Bumblefoot, which is great, by the way. It's got 14 instrumental tracks. He's got Steve Vai, Guthrie Govan, Brian May from Queen. He's got all these legends that are way out of my league on his album. But yeah, I would like to have Russ Parrish on there that plays for Steel Panther just because I knew him, back in LA. And same
Right.
with Paul Gilbert because I knew him and met him back then. But Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, John Petrucci, those kind of guys would be cool to have. Eric Gales, who's a great blues player. I don't know if you know him. He black guy that he plays like upside down left-handed guitar, kind of like Jimi Hendrix, but he's great. Uh, yeah, those are
So
probably ones that I would tend to go to.
so when the album comes out, hopefully as scheduled on September the 5th. Is it going to be available digitally only, or are you going to have physical copies?
No, yeah, they'll have physical copies. They're making the
Cool.
CDs. They're making the CDs right now. I I guess a month before the release, we'll probably put the first video out and kind of pre-sale, promote, and then I think they'll be on Amazon and through their site, and then they'll have it on Spotify and all the digital download sites. Uh, and then we'll release the second video probably after the CD's released to help further promote it. And we'll see how it goes. As far as playing out and stuff, I don't see myself doing it because I'm kind of locked in here taking care of my parents. But maybe one day, if enough people like it, want to hear me, I could do a backing track or hire a bass player and drummer. I guess that's the only bad thing about I don't have a band locally. I got a drummer in New York and a bass player in LA. They couldn't be further apart. I'm sure they would play with me. My dream would be to get on a tour with another instrumental, bunch of guys because those guys tour. Uh, like that's how I kind of met Ron Thal. Was Yngwie Malmsteen was touring with him and Gary Hoy, and that's if you had a tour of something like that where other instrumentals that had established fan bases, and they needed a guy to just come up and maybe play two or three songs while people walked in the door, even that would be cool. I'd love to do that, but so we'll see how this one does. And like I said, I've got like three songs to do for the next one to finish it out, and I'm planning on releasing that in the spring of next year.
So
And
you're
then
not going to take a 10-year break between albums this time,
yeah,
right?
no, yeah, yeah, 15. Yeah, I'm not.
15, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm on a roll, and it's all those little things I recorded though. I've got so many. I mean, like I said, after this album, I've got enough for another album or and a half because for years I would just record these little things, these little ideas, and so I've got three more tracks to do for this one, and then this next one will have vocal tracks on it though for sure, and then I'll try to do another one for the following year, 27.
So before we go, let's plug the album. I think you have a website. Go ahead and
Yeah,
tell what that is, and I'll also put a link to it in the episode description for people to be able to click on it easily. So where
awesome.
can people find you right now, Mike?
MikeShouseMusic.com is my website. It's not updated. I'm currently getting ready to update. I mean, I've got it ready to update. I've got all the artwork because it's still the old website from the last album. So I'm going in and putting all the new artwork and the new looks and all that and updating with all the new info. And I'll probably get that updated here this weekend and upload. So, but MikeShouseMusic.com. You can also go to Deca Entertainment. That's DEKO Entertainment, and go to their artist page, and they'll have all my links to their the stuff where you can buy the album or download from there. And Facebook, Mike Shouse, I think, and then Instagram. You look me up. I'm on all the sites now. I haven't been for years, but I had to get back on there, to promote.
I
So
think you on TikTok yet?
yeah, I'm on TikTok. Yeah, I haven't done anything. That's what I'm saying. I got on there and I started. I got rid of all those years ago, and then I had to open them back up so I could start promoting for this thing. So I'm
Yeah, I
on
got on
TikTok.
TikTok once for like 5 minutes. I said, "This, I've never felt older."
Yeah,
This,
that's what I'm saying.
I
It's
think,
well, the second video we're doing for our the album. It's gonna be it's filmed on an iPhone to look like a TikTok video. And
mm,
it's called smiley face emoji, and it's got me playing, and then it's got another character like B-roll of a guy walking around doing stuff, and he's got his head is an emoji, a smiley face emoji, three-dimensional, and then at the end you'll have all the emojis. So it's gonna play like a TikTok video, so we can that I'll put it on TikTok and Instagram and all those formats. So it's more of a 16:9 ratio than a landscape like on a
right.
TV computer. So, and then my the first video's got AI and it's got 3D animation, kind of tie into that whole the new culture everybody's going.
So once again, we have been talking to Mike Shouse about his upcoming album, Jaded, scheduled to come out in September, and can't wait to hear the entire thing, Mike. You sent me a few things I got to see, I think about a week ago, and it really whetted my appetite to be able to hear the entire thing. Really looking forward to it. And if you want to pre-order the album or check out Mike further, like I just said, I will have a link to his artist page with his record company as well as his personal website in the episode comments, so you can just easily click on those. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I love the podcast, and I hope you keep it going, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, man.